The Expanse, episode 8. It might be episode 9. So in this most recent episode, which is what I'm going to talk about, the Naomi is basically reunited with her ship by floating through space. So what I found was interesting about this particular episode, lots of things. Her son didn't tell, basically led Marcos to think that she was dead. I mean, he did see her float out into space, but he saw almost the whole exchange. So I don't know. I personally think he believes she's still alive and that he didn't intentionally didn't tell about that part that happened. So he's leading Marcos to think that she's dead because he still cares about her. So I think the episode before, where I think she was really getting to him, her son, getting through to him, and he made a big emotional show to cover it up. And then when she basically escaped, barely, right, onto this other ship, which was her ship, that Marco wasn't like, let me see the body, let's retrieve the body, none of that. He was just like, oh, well, you're out in space, you're gone. So what I thought interesting about that is, I mean, it's not like they weren't exactly going anywhere. They could have easily scanned if he wanted to bury her. I don't know how Belters bury people. I saw the same thing happen on the 100, right? So there was an episode where Clark's mom was taken over with the memory drive, right? And then she had to space her own mom, right, out the airlock. So their bodies were floating out the airlock, and they basically didn't go and pick up the bodies again to bury them, and they just let them float outside, which they could have retrieved the bodies because all the memory drives were literally still intact. But they didn't say what happened to them. You assume they burned up in the atmosphere on reentry and all that stuff. I mean, they're in a spaceship. They can literally just fly over there and pick them up again, retrieve the memory drives. They didn't explain in the story that they did any of that. They just kind of like, oh, your body's sucked out into space. That's it. You're a goner. Can't retrieve your body or anything. Too far away. Like, well, I mean, not that far away. So then, anyway, that part was kind of strange. But he basically, Marcos for sure believes Naomi's dead. Now, he might find out real soon she's not, because the spy, well, it's not really a spy, the overt, lieutenant that he's put under Drummer that reports back to him every freaking thing, right? Little weasel. She might report back and tell him, hey, Naomi's still alive. Then he'll be really pissed off. I do like how they're weaving these interpersonal stories, and they do this in the books really good too. Like, basically, the big bad guy has a personal interest, in one of the main characters of the show. So in the past, I've seen this done in other shows, not in a great way, right? Other TV shows where there's 5 core people, 5 main characters, someone who knows or is related to one of the main characters is the big bad who puts the entire world or the entire whatever in danger, right? Like Buffy and Angel will do this all the time. And you're like, what are the odds that you would have a personal relationship with the one person that's going to try to take over? Like, it's pretty small, but, in all these shows, they do it all the time. Again, they are doing that in this show, but it's done so well that you don't really realize it. I mean, they haven't talked in 20 years, and it's someone who she had a past relationship who has evolved and, gone beyond and done other things. So to me, it was so well written and done so well that you don't really notice that's what they're doing, is using the personal relationship of one of the main characters to drive the story and making him the big bad guy, which he's a big bad guy. But again, they've written it so well, and the world building is done so well that it's kind of okay. I mean, they'd also do this video games, right? Dragon Age Inquisition does this to set up the next Dragon Age game, right? One of the main guys that you can have in your party that helps you, the elf wizard, basically is going to be the big bad, rumored to be the bad guy in the next story, or like more Morgana, right? Who was Morgan, who was the big bad guy, or whose mom was rumored to be, something maybe going bad in one of the previous stories. But she was good in the Inquisition. Anyway, so that's something they've done very well. The story is great. This particular episode, she's stuck on the ship. The ship is navigation's locked into a specific destination with a repeated broadcast. It does the same broadcast over and over and over. And it's basically a trap for. So this is another part that's strange. He sets the trap, and in her message, she's calling out for James Holden to come help her, right? In the pre-recorded message that's been set up as the trap. But I never got the impression that Marco wanted to kill Holden. I mean, maybe he does. But I got the impression he wanted to blow up the Rocinante, which maybe that's the same thing. Maybe not. But he was really mad when the Rocinante didn't get blown up like he wanted, because that ship was specifically a symbol that he wanted destroyed. So he was mad when that didn't happen and those plans got ruined and stuff. So again, I don't know if he wants Holden dead. I mean, he had someone come in and get rid of Fred, right next to James Holden, and then whoever that was didn't shoot James Holden, right? It's just like, I mean, that's your assassin, that's your job. Good taking them both out right there, didn't. So it's not that I think he wants him alive. I just think he just wants that ship blown up. But then he leaves the trap for. I don't just think he's either a poor planner, right, or he doesn't give I don't know. He just wants the Rocinante blown up and not Holden, and he knows Holden is the captain, so maybe. Anyway, it seems like an odd setup. But besides all that, like that's that message going over and over, and she tries to, mess with communications, and she can't get into the communication. She's locked out of all the computer systems. She figures out that the ship is basically wired to explode as soon as somebody opens an airlock. But she's not sure which power source it's wired to, or maybe it's wired to all of them. So she gets an oxygen suit, which has, for some reason, this oxygen suit has a limited amount of oxygen in it, or it's completely out of oxygen. So she puts a helmet on, right, gets far enough down the hallway to cut the wires. There's like 27 sets of wires. It seems like there's a lot. And then she's about to run out of air, so she has to run back and put on a different suit with a different helmet, the different oxygen supply. She has to do this over and over and over and over. So it's a very repetitive type of episode. And she's basically fighting her way through each and every, she's repeating the mantra of the message as it goes on and on. And she basically, I'm pretty sure she cuts all the wires that would set off the bomb. I mean, we don't know yet till next episode, but she slowly does that. So it was a very good psychological, almost like a psychological episode of, which was interesting visually to depict. Sometimes people feel trapped in their circumstances and what they have to do over and over, and they let it get to them, right? And she was just fighting through it. And so to me, it was a really good acting job. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the best acting jobs she's done on the show, the actress, to date. And the last episode was a great Amos episode, right, for that actor. So this show is doing character building really well, and writing the episodes to the actor's strengths, right? So if you have an actor that's not great at spitting lines of dialogue or Shakespeare, right, you give them some good action sequences, right? Which is what happened in this episode. Like I I wouldn't say she's the best Shakespearean actress. Maybe she is, but with a Belter accent, it would sound funny. And maybe they'll do that next. But this episode seemed tailored to the actress herself and her character, and it was done really well. It was fantastic. So I recommend the show, The Expanse. I recommend this episode. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. Thank you.